Welcome to Rich on the Road Across America.
Hey there, this is Rich, and we are working through the 10 items on Lucille's wintertime tune-up. We have replaced the coolant, we replaced the clutch plates, we replaced the crush rings on the exhaust, we replaced the front and rear brake pads, we've bled the brake fluid, and today we're going to bleed the clutch fluid. If you're familiar with or you understand closed hydraulic clutch or brake systems, go ahead and fast forward 2 minutes because I'm going to talk about it for a second. I don't know about you, but it always helps me to understand how a system works to perform the maintenance better. A hydraulic brake system or clutch system is a closed system of fluid. When you squeeze a lever, it pushes that fluid in the system towards a piston. That is the brake caliper. The calipers push out, they press on the brake pads squeeze on the rotor, and that slows the turning of the tire. Same is true for a clutch. When you squeeze the clutch, it pushes the fluid through the system. That pushes a middle spindle, that pushes the clutch pressure plate away from the clutch plates. That releases the friction. The motor continues turning, but because the friction has been released, which no longer turns the gears, which means that it's not transferring power to the drivetrain, be that a chain, a belt, or in this case, a shaft. When you release those levers, it pulls the fluid back through the system. That means the brake calipers loosen, the brake pads come off of the rotor, and the wheel turns freely. It also means that the clutch pressure plate is now allowed to come back with the springs to apply pressure to the plates, which means the friction plates contract and touch each other, and they transfer the power from the motor to the gearbox to the drivetrain. There's two things which highly affect the performance of a hydraulic system. You want to maintain the integrity of the fluid. One is moisture. Moisture breaks down the viscosity of brake fluid. Also, air in the system will affect the performance. It allows that fluid to be compressed. That creates a sponginess, an inconsistency in the system. That means your brakes and your clutches won't engage and disengage properly. Now, for you real mechanics out there, I know that's a very simplistic overview, but that's my understanding. I'm not a mechanic. I know there's a lot more when you talk about master cylinders, slave cylinders. I'm just talking about a high-level understanding of how the system works. These little pieces of knowledge help me understand these systems, and I hope it helps you out a little bit too. So let's get to work and bleed the clutch fluid. The clutch system uses the same DOT4 Honda brake fluid as the brake system did. And just like the brake system, you're going to need 3/16 inch inside diameter vinyl tubing. And just like the brake system, you're going to need a box-end wrench and something to catch the fluid in. Brake fluid is highly caustic and it will destroy a paint job. Regardless of how safe you are, you're probably going to spill some of this fluid. So it's best to cover stuff up with a towel. We're on the left handlebar, the clutch side, and we're going to remove these two screws from the clutch reservoir. Then we're going to take off the cap. Then there's a plastic inner cap, a rubber diaphragm, and finally a styrofoam float. As we bleed the system, we're going to keep an eye on this reservoir to make sure we have fluid in here and we never get down to where it's sucking air into the system. In the first video of this series, I removed this plate to access the drain for the coolant. I've left the plate off so we get to the bleed valve for the clutch fluid. We're going to take a 10mm wrench and place it over the bleed valve. Then we're going to take our vinyl hose, put it over the bleed valve, and run it down to our catch bottle. Press my clutch a few times, and I'm going to hold it closed. Open my bleed valve, and you see the fluid come right out. Once I close it, I'm going to release the clutch lever. I'm going to pump it again, hold it closed, open again. Close this all the way. The reservoir is getting a little low, so I'm going to put some more brake fluid in it so we don't have any air in the system. Fluid's pretty clear now. I feel like the system's flushed out. Got the old dirty out. Nothing but clean, fresh fluid in the system. I'm gonna take my hose off and let it drain. No matter how hard you try, you can never get these handlebars level to where your fluid is level. So we're going to do our best to fill it up. Gone a little high on this end because it's low on that end. First with the styrofoam float. Then we put in the diaphragm, the inner cover, then the outer cover. Then we'll place the 2 screws back in, tighten them down. Then we try to clean off any of the fluid that might have spilled out. I noticed when I took my plate off that the little rubber stopper was missing from the clutch bleed valve. Don't know when that got lost, but I found a little rubber stopper here at the house and put it on top of it. It's good and tight. It's gonna hold on there and keep any dust out of it. Before I put the cover on the inside of it, there are some rubber grommets that protect you from vibration noise. So I made sure that they're all still on there. I'll place the cover back on. There's a series of 7 5mm bolts. You'll notice each one of these bolts has a rubber grommet on it, again, for noise dampening. So I'm going to inspect each one to make sure that the rubber is in good condition. If it weren't, I would go back to my Honda dealer and get me some new ones, but these all look like they're still in good shape. Well, that finishes bleeding the clutch fluid of Lucille. I can't believe we've already knocked out 6 of the 10 items. The next ones are pretty simple. So stick with me and we'll wrap this up. See you guys.
I may be poor, but I'm rich on the road across America.